What is going on, guys? Rodney here with Crypto Bros, bringing you part two of ICO research. And basically, in the last video, we covered the 4 to 5 main things that we want to look for, what basically dictates an ICO based off the small amount of history and data that we know in terms of doing ICO. And just as a refresher, those were basically the project, like what is it? Is it tangible? Is it an app, infrastructure? The team, advisors, and partners, the pricing and the economics of the coin, and then also I have social media resources and other considerations that you need to take in there. But the top three really are like what is the project, what is it doing, and what type of value that holds. So if we know anything about ICOs, the very best performing ones were like infrastructures or blockchains or some large project like that. And like there were other good or pretty decent performing ones that may be like apps or something else. But really here, we want to be very pinpoint accurate with what we're going with, just because this is going to return, like this is almost like a gamble. And we need to pick out the best indicators of what is going to be successful. So when I first started kind of like looking into these ICOs and trying to like do my own research, right? Like everybody, I don't want to say shills coins, but guys pump up coins and talk about different type of projects and things and stuff that are going on, and it looks really good in the video. But sometimes we can't always go off of what those people are saying, and we have to form our own ideas about things we're either interested in, things we know. We're obviously smart people too, but I didn't necessarily know where to start. So what I first started doing is any ICO that I was researching, I was comparing it. Like what would be great is if the ICO, fell on this spreadsheet. Now, if you haven't seen this before, or if you haven't watched the last video, I briefly kind of go through here. This is Ian Bellina's spreadsheet. I also have another one, which is like a point ranking system, and this is how you can kind of start gauging ICOs. Not all of the ICOs are on these, but we can use this as like a guide to help shape our own decisions. So that being said, as we're combing through here, the example that I'm going to use today in terms of like coin economics, or I forget what Ian Bellina calls them. He calls them, he calls them token metrics. So we're going to be looking at the token metrics first to figure out what is good and what is bad. So the very first thing, this is Fusex. This is one. The reason I'm using this because I actually did a little research on this myself, so I'm fairly familiar with some of the numbers, and it'll make it easier for me to communicate. So the very first thing we're going to look at, and it's because it's on the top of the website, is the hard cap. And based on if we're looking at today's prices, the hard cap on 40,000 ETH is somewhere between like 35 and $40 million. So how do we know if this is a good hard cap? The first thing that I would do is I would compare them to hard caps over here. And I don't remember if I ran through this spreadsheet. I never watch any of my own videos. I'm weird about it. But I don't remember if I ran through the spreadsheet. But you can see here that each of these are a category, and they have their own ranking system based on Ian Bellina's beliefs on what is important and what isn't. And he's basically bringing data to this avenue, so you can build a score. So he's building a score and scoring these on things he thinks is important. And for a new person, this is actually a great guide to use. So as we scroll through some of these things, I probably should have started with the actual number of tokens and that, but I picked the hard cap. So we can actually look. So if we scroll along the top here it is, ICO market cap. Here's the hard cap. We can see this one right here, it's ranked with 4 points. So it was a $39 million hard cap, got a rank of 3.26. This one right here is a $32 million hard cap, 3.38. Let's see what a good one is. Okay, here's a $10 million hard cap, 381, and a $43 million hard cap, which got a just over 3.0. So what we can see here is that something basically between 10 and 40 million is a pretty decent number for a hard cap. What we can see is if this gets over 100 million, the price starts dropping drastically. So this is 116 million. Went way down, barely or almost 2 points. This is 273 million, 0 points. 133, so this is one way we can gauge this information. And doing this process is how I started kind of gauging. As I scroll through some of these websites, right, I eyeball these things based on some of the things I've done in the past. So the next thing we're actually going to look at is number of ICO tokens versus the number of total tokens. So we can see here, this is only ranked on a 1-point scale, but we can see basically somewhere around the 80 million tokens will score you 1 point. Total number of tokens is 186 million. Okay, that'll get you 1 point. Let's see what gets you 0 points. 300 million, 1 billion gets you 0 points. 100 million will get you 1. 150 million total will get you 1 point. So, okay, that gives us a good baseline of where to maybe base this. So if we go through here, scroll down, we can find the amount of total tokens. So this is technically a billion tokens in total that they're going to give out. They're giving 60% of those away in the pre-sale. Based on this specific spreadsheet, we can see that that is not that great of a score in terms of the token base. So that's another piece of the puzzle that we can tie together. And basically what I've done here, and I'm not going to go through each one of these criteria, but basically what we've done here is we're just going through and seeing what matches up. And I mean, we can keep going. So prototype, yes. Well, FuseX, let's see if they have a prototype. They have this card which holds your BCT tokens. I don't know why I said that. That holds your Bitcoin, that holds other cryptocurrencies, that holds your credit cards, that hold like rewards, point cards. So it holds all of this in this credit card thing. It's battery rechargeable, whatever it is. But that would technically fall under having a prototype. And they actually have like 30,000 of those out and about. So that would get a yes. Now we want to check out their team. And I have a couple team pages popped up here. So this is where stuff gets fairly subjective, right? What I would do here is I would look at some of the top dogs and I would go to their LinkedIn pages, which makes this great. And all I would do is I would see is if, what their previous experience was. Has Andrew Bay, has he been a CEO before? Did he work for other companies? Did he do something beforehand? And some things that I actually like to look for are other major and notable companies. So like, and I mentioned this in the last video, like, did they used to be a developer at Google, or were they a top dog at Microsoft or something like that? And that usually, again, we are taught this is very super subjective, and maybe they're very low on the totem pole there, but having some big other company names tied to there is something I specifically work for. Again, that's very speculative, but I do that. And so what I would do here is I would kind of comb through some of these top dogs and see what they have actually done. I'm not connected to my LinkedIn, so we're not even going to click on these. But I would go through and try to click on or pick out the most important people and kind of give them a rating scale of 1 to 10. Also, almost even more, I don't want to say more important than the team itself, but we definitely have to look at the advisors. Who are the advisors on the team? Do they have experience in blockchain? Are they going to be able to help guide these guys? Were they part of a there's always a lot of overlap sometimes in the space. So, were they part of a different project? Did a couple guys come from Ethereum who are now working on this project? So there's a bunch of things that we have to look for in here. So, as we kind of scroll through this guy, Dr. Mo Levin, the CEO of Keynote. Okay, sounds reasonable. Maybe we check him out, see what else he's done. The Task co-founder and president. Very awesome. CEO of ICO Crowd Blockchain Lab. Okay, this guy's probably can bring some value to the table. I've got a security specialist, an attorney, another ICO Crowd Asia person, and a very recognizable name in terms of the crypto world, which is Charlie Shrem. So, okay, that's another great sign. He signed on this project, and he actually signed on recently. Another great example of going through a team, and I may have covered this in the last video, but I don't remember if that is the case or not because I never watched my own. But if we look at the advisors here, or if we, here's the advisors. But if we look at the advisors here on Storm Team, right, this looks very promising, even though this is just an app. Would this have passed a grading scale on, somebody else's a report or thought process? I don't know. But if we look at the advisors here, we have the CEO and founder of Bittrex as an advisor, the legend, Charles Hoskinson, this dude from Jax, which is a wallet, and it's also CEO and founder of Jax and decentralized founder at Ethereum. So a lot of guys who have been in the space. And again, I'm not sitting here saying I know all these people. I'm not that. I wouldn't know that, so I'm not sure. But what you can do is by doing a little research, seeing what they are, you can draw your own conclusions here. There's a lot of big names. Founding team member here, of Zynga, and the list goes on. So that's pretty cool. One of the examples I think I used from the last video was the OMGs, and they had that's a bomb lineup. Like everyone who's in this kind of space and has been around knows Vitalik Buterin. He's on that advising board with a couple other guys that are recognizable in the space as well. So that's a good that would give you a good idea or a good feeling on the team. And we can actually, I think we can be able to see here what they rated Storm's team. So let's just check this out. At the time that I'm shooting this, though, Charles Hoskinson was a new add to the team, so he wouldn't have been included in this grading system. So okay, so here's Storm right here. So maybe what we would do is we would just scroll across, because this has already been this ICO has already happened. But what we're using this in, again, guys, is just as a reminder, we're using it as a reference point. Like we want to kind of get and understand what we are looking for. All right. So let's see what column team is here. Okay, advisors and team. So we will go back down and let's see what kind of grade or score they got. So they got a 4 and a... I'm sorry, they got a 3 and a 4. So their team got a 3 and their advisors got a 4. That will each earn them a good amount of points in this rating system and also build some confidence up in what you're going on. Also, while we're over here, we can see, that this is an app, and an app doesn't get you very many points in terms of the grading scale. What we're looking for are blockchains and infrastructures, and I get this is weighted. It looks like on a smaller scale with either a 0, 1, or 2. But I think most people who are trying to in this space kind of know that something along the lines of like an Icon or a Nebulous or a Wabi or a Power Ledger or something like that. Usually, because it's a larger project and you're gambling almost. Depends what they have out, right? If it's just an idea, as I've said before. We look at like Tron, they don't have a thing yet. So with this, we've got to be diligent in doing this. So with Nebulous, as we're kind of checking out their website, create your first blockchain search engine, and we're just pretending like we're doing this organically with our own little searches without looking at anybody's stuff. So what we're doing is we're just checking it out. So the next generation blockchain ecosystem. So here we can basically identify that this is a blockchain and a full infrastructure on what they're doing, including a search engine which no one else has. So again, this is how we're just drawing our conclusions. Like if it's your first time through, you don't necessarily know what is good and what is bad and how to gauge it. So we're just using these spreadsheets as a gauge. All we're doing here, guys, and I could probably sum this whole video up in terms of like, be resourceful, do some research, and apply yourself. So we're just using some of the things at hand to be resourceful. Now this is another one I also covered in the last video, just briefly. This is a 7-part checklist, a 7-part checklist, if you will, of what their criteria is. And there's a lot of overlap here. So 1, minimum viable product. Do they have a thing? Experienced team. Use case of the coin or token. Satisfied customer, good planning and vision, reasonable hard cap, and laws usage in terms of spelling. So, some of these, depending on what you're looking at, would fall underneath the, I think in like a Ian Bellina's point of view, maybe use case and token would fall under the many categories in the minimum viable product or the thing. So, anyway, guys, this is how I started doing my first research on ICOs. Once you do this a few times, like again, it's not a hard concept to grasp. Like it's like has a thing, has a decent team, solves a problem. They have some type of product out or a code or they're a main net or a test net. They have something in place the biggest red flag there is they're just not starting from scratch. You're not investing in an idea. Like, you can, I'm not saying that's wrong. There's just a little more risk involved in that because ideas, as we know, don't always get off the ground. But the same type of thing here. We can kind of scroll through here, and I think FuseX was on here, so we can check out what their grade was. So the first three, it got a green then a red. So I don't know with this gray if this means they stopped the research because it was one bad mark on there, and we can actually see what it is. So what they've identified is a minimum viable product, an experience and reachable team, a use case for the actual product, and a satisfied customer/tester. Fair, okay, so if they don't, and it's hard to say, like, this is, again, could be speculative. What I've seen in my research is there's 30,000 of those weird credit card things floating out on there, and whether people like them or not, I don't know. Pretty cool idea. Will it do well during ICO time? I don't know. So anyway, guys, that is all I have for you today. I really just wanted to build upon that last video and show you how to get started just doing some type of research. And obviously, the next thing we can always do is swing over to YouTube. We can check out any of these coins. So let's see what type of buzz they have here. On this, shoot, I spelled that wrong. So yeah, all we're doing is just seeing, okay, we got some videos here. Looks like they have some type of YouTube channel, not very many subscribers. Couple videos, some things we might want to look at is how many views it has. Okay, 16K, not bad. Here they were. I believe this video is at that event that was just in Miami. FuseX demo card, 26,000 views 4 months ago. So okay, they've got some stuff out there on social media. Maybe the next thing we would do is check out Twitter, right? And I'm not showing anything that nobody else does here. I'm just trying to help the very first time, user. If you've done this before, you guys probably should have stopped the video a long time ago. My thought process behind this video is just showing you guys how to get the ball rolling. Because once you kind of have just like this basic kind of outline on how to start your research, then you can start forming your own opinions and you can start digging in. So, man, I am just brutal with this typing. Actually, it's FSN. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so okay, here it is. FuseX bought some in the pre-sale, hit the hard cap, but the team is awesome. Was a bit skeptical before. Also, pre-sale is not filled because of crazy high standards of the KYC process. Finally approved when talking to admins. I give it a medium plus rating. Okay, cool, nice. FuseX, I reckon this one will be huge. Should check it out. FuseX, maybe tell. Let's check out a few more of these. ICO as mentioned. So yeah, all we're doing is just kind of seeing what the community says. Also, and as I mentioned before, like in this little, where do I want social media page, like what we want to see, like, are they on Twitter? Are they on Reddit? Do they have a Discord? Are they on Telegram? And these are things we want to look for. And then once we jump in there, we want to see how many people are actually involved. Like, let's go over to go over to their Twitter page and see how many guys are following. So they have, 3,378 followers. That's probably a medium. That's probably a medium ranking. We can always see if that's I'm pretty sure that is a category over here. So audience, real world counterpart, community. Okay, so it is. I knew that. I don't know why I'm acting like I'm surprised, but we can see here community and what gets it a. So a 1 point is 14,000, 3,000 is a 0.3. 4,700 is a 0.4. So basically, for every 1,000 people you get, it's a 0.1%, or I'm sorry, yeah, 1/10 of that. So okay, so now we're drawing some conclusions. Now we can kind of put together some idea whether we want to get into this ICO or any other ICO based on what we know. I definitely recommend looking at people who are smarter than us. Seeing what so-and-so has to say, seeing what our favorite YouTuber has to say. So anyway, guys, that is it for this video. I just wanted to shed some light into how I started researching ICOs and then how I built up like a gauging process. And I think Ian Bellina's is the most in-depth because it actually takes numerical data that you can apply, and you can get, he's super transparent with all of his stuff here too. So you can see everything, and this thing updates as it go. I'm not trying to pump this dude's tires or anything. I just appreciate the fact that he is so transparent with his information. He puts it out there for everyone to see. I think he has a pretty monstrous following, and he's been very successful in here. So in terms of just starting your research, like, you have to start somewhere. You need to put some type of data together, and being able to apply to something, I think, is super, super important. So anyway, that is it for tonight, guys. All I'm doing is just showing you how to get started doing this. After you do it a few times, it becomes a piece of cake. You never know, though. It's always a guess, especially with all the scams that are out there. So, really putting in some time. Like, okay, there's a scams, perfect up. There is a scams tab here. And then at the same time, here's a bunch of things that were passed on too. So again, there's just a ton of information out there, and it's really hard to keep up with all these different ICOs and emerging coins and everything else. But anyway, that is it for tonight. I hope in terms of being able to apply this data and at least having like a starting point, like we've established a base for you guys. So anyway, guys, that is all I have for you this evening. I'll probably be light on the videos towards the later half of the week. Thursday morning, I am flying out to Vegas. The crypto market is down, so we're going to go get some excitement in our life in the great city of Las Vegas. So anyway, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you found this helpful. If any of these videos are helpful, by all means, subscribe. Pumping out new stuff. I actually missed a day last week for a funeral, so I can't say every single day. But I am pumping out new cryptocurrency videos every day. I think I'm on, like, besides last week, I'm on like 80 or 90 videos in a row with a day or two missed because of that. But anyway, subscribe up, guys. We'd love to have you. Appreciate you. If you want to toss your boy a like because you think I'm a nice guy, I would really like that. So anyway, have a great night, and I will check you tomorrow.